Places everybody.
Yeah. Now, what if I could? Because I have no idea where you guys are at in Baxter.
You're listening to WRFB Radio Free Virginia. In no other better freaking place in the world than Deltona, Florida. Here you are, lunch with no other than the dynamic duo, Laz and Jack.
And greetings, everybody. This is Laz.
This is Jack. Welcome to Lunch with Laz and Jack and
Casey Cupcakes.
And
Groda.
there we go. We have a special guest in studio today as well. Do we want to announce him right off the bat, or do we want to make the good folks out there wait? Let's just go ahead and announce him. Let him introduce himself, as a matter of fact. How about that?
That works for me. Hey everybody, Rustic Dragon here to talk a little bit about some of the recent developments for Hobloth 3 whenever you guys are ready for it.
Alrighty. Well, welcome to the studio today. Great to have you. Great to have updates on what's coming up here for Hobloth 3. For the record, today is Wednesday, March 2nd, 2016, here in Shroud, the Avatar. And for anybody watching out there, at least, you'll notice that we are at a different location today. Thanks to Casey Cupcakes here. He set up a little lot for us. There's a bug that hit the servers yesterday, where all sorts of weird sounding animals are coming across, which would come across the broadcast. It would interrupt Scrota's musical interludes and backgrounds as well as anything else. So we've relocated until we get this little bug handled and out of the mix there.
You don't like the godlike animals?
Oh man, it was funny. I'm telling you, it was, didn't hit me till last night, and I was zoning in, and next thing I know, I'm hearing sheep, and I'm only 50% loaded into the scene, and I'm like, what?
I really did think last night when I first heard it that it was you playing around with your soundboard.
Yeah, no, that wasn't me. Kush Lady, welcome to the show today. Thank you for joining us again. As with everybody else, thank you everybody for joining us today. You can catch us on YouTube, you can catch us on Twitch TV, you can catch us on NBNN.info, you can catch us on WRFB Radio Free Britannia in-game. For those of you who may be catching this later on in rebroadcasts and re-recordings.
Yeah, let's jump right in and let's go ahead and start talking about Hobloth, because I know I have been doing some fighter practice with Rustic Dragon.
Yes, we've touched on that. You guys have been out there. I've been seeing the tweets and the Facebook posts from people like yourself and Casey and Rustic and yeah.
Since I didn't have Twitter, I did not know that it was going on this weekend, but I hope to go this Sunday.
Sunday.
At the Fair Park Coliseum.
Yeah, that's I had actually kind of forgotten about that. I've been running fighter practice in my backyard here every Sunday to kind of get people ready for Hobloth combat. It's one of those things where a little experience can give you a really big advantage over people who don't have any experience at all. And I think Jack can probably talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I've heard some of Jack's stories already, but it'd be nice to share with the world here.
I will say that the swords do matter and how you use them. If you're going to be flailing around with your sword, it's a lot easier to kill you than if you are just using short, concise movements and poking people.
So would you say that it's not the size of the sword that matters, but how you use it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's definitely how you use your sword.
And how experienced you are at using your sword and not flailing.
Yeah, I mean, because if you get a sword that's just too big for you, then it's slow, it's unwieldy, and
Doesn't feel right in your
you're
hand.
always opening yourself. It doesn't feel right in your hand. Yeah.
Now, Rustic, I wanted to ask you about that. We're on the topic of weapons and stuff, and I was perusing the site during one of the recent posts you put out there, just checking out all little goodies. And I noticed you include links to places like the caverns where people can get LARP-type weapons for this kind of event. Do you want to tell the folks a little bit about that so anybody who wants to get prepared has or is armed with a bit more information as it may be?
Oh, I would love to. So, firstly, anybody, I will actually take a step back. I've already placed the order for a bulk quantity of weapons to be at the event. Just like last year, I had 100 one-handed swords available for use and kind of a small variety of other various weapons. Magic weapons and some variety, like a couple two-handed swords and a staff and fun stuff like that. This year I've placed an order for another 100 one-handed swords. So everybody coming to the event will be able to use one of these swords. So you don't have to bring a weapon to the event. But that being said, you're absolutely welcome to bring a weapon to the event. The only caveat to that is that any outside weapons have to pass a safety inspection, and the rules for what is safe is on the Hobloth combat page. So if you navigate to the event and you click on Hobloth,
right now.
oh, excellent, cool.
Yes.
I can't actually see that right now, so
That's okay. We got you
so
covered.
awesome. You guys are great. So yeah, on there is actually, I'm not sure if it talks about it on the combat page, but definitely on the FAQ.
We got a video up here. We got
All
target areas.
the way down at equipment safety, it does have the pre-approved weapons that you're trying to get to, I believe.
Okay, perfect. I thought I included that on there at some point. But yeah, I'm just it's a basic safety inspection, and basically I can kind of tell you guys how I'm going to do that. And it's going to simply be, I'm going to look at your weapon, and I'm going to make sure that as I pinch and twist and flex the weapon in my hand, I want to make sure that I really can't feel a rigid core. I want to make sure that any striking part of the weapon is going to feel sufficiently padded, and I want to make sure that there's no danger of the core poking out. And if there's a particular part of the weapon, say the pommel, that's not as padded as the rest of it, I would just simply say, okay, you can use this, just don't hit with this part of it.
Right.
Or in some cases, if, let's say, maybe the tip of your weapon is more rigid than I would want, I would say, well, it's reasonable to ask someone not to hit with the pommel, but it's not really realistic to expect someone not to hit with the tip. So in a case like that, I would have to say that the weapon isn't legal. But as I mentioned, there's weapons for you to use if your weapon doesn't meet safety standards.
Very good to know. Now, I saw this thing about the second circle of spells yesterday. Was it yesterday or was it the day before yesterday?
Oh, it was yesterday.
It was yesterday. Okay.
It's yesterday.
Yeah. So I promised myself that come March 1st, I would start, kicking butt, taking names, and just, going head down and full throttle on Hobloth development. And I was kind of relaxing, calm before the storm up until March 1st. So yesterday, I got a whole lot done, and I ordered quest journals, I ordered some reward trinkets, I ordered some stuff that no one knows about yet, placed
Sweet.
a whole bunch of orders, decided on which beers are going to be present, started making sure that the food is going to be, looking into when I'm going to order all that stuff, all just absolutely neck deep, which is, my favorite thing in the world. I love doing this. But one of the things that I added, that I did yesterday, was I added the second level, or rather the second circle of spells to the website, which I'm super, super excited about.
Now, can you tell us a little
I
bit
especially
Oh,
I love
absolutely.
the fact that the spells require a reagent. And,
yeah, because that's what I'm digging.
as well as holding your
gotta ask
spell
about
book
this.
in your hand.
I gotta ask
And,
about, because I was reading, you have to have the book for second levels and the reagents, and I'm curious, so I'm digging this. So please enlighten us. I'm just
Absolutely, and I'm really glad that you guys asked about this because I was really excited about this too. So last year, Magic was available, and if you look at the Hobloth combat page in the Magic section, only the first circle of spells was available last year. Though last year we didn't call it the first circle of magic; it was just magic. But in my opinion, magic was really underused at the event. And last year, there was no requirement to hold your spell book, though Duke Violation held his spell book in his offhand while he was casting, and I said, dude, you can hold a sword, you don't have to do that. And he said, but the avatar does it, it's real. And I was like, you know what, that's, now that you mention that, that's a great idea. So he totally sold me on that idea.
And that's a throwback to UO as well, as you used to be able to hold the spell book in the off left hand while you were doing other things.
Yeah, in Ultima 7, you had to hold the spell book in Ultima 7. But you didn't for Hobloth 2. So last year you didn't have to hold the spell book, but reagents were still required last year. So if you were going to use a fireball, you had to be holding the reagent, which for fireball is similar to other LARP combat games, which is just a ball wrapped in red cloth. And if you wanted to cast a healing spell, you used strips of white cloth, and depending on whether you were casting heal or resurrect, the number of strips or reagents would determine which spell you're going to cast. You were going to say something there, Jack?
I was going to ask you a question about this, because one of the things that you say on here is that each syllable that's requires 1 second for a cast time.
Yeah, I saw that.
If I'm going to cast a fireball, that's in vas flam. So that's a 3 second long cast before the fireball gets thrown.
Yeah,
now,
that's right.
After you do the in vas flam, can you hold on to the fireball for a duration, say 5 seconds before it self-destructs?
That's a great question. The answer is yes, but you can't move.
Precasting.
So you can, as long as the
both feet or both knees are on the ground was the rule.
Yeah. So if you can cast it. So you can you hold the reagent, you shout the incantation. Everyone knows that you're charging a fireball, and you can hold that fireball as long as you want. But if you move your feet, it fizzles.
Nice.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
So you can twist and you can turn as long as your feet are firmly planted. I'm going to have to remember this.
Absolutely, yeah.
Jack and I just standing there casting fireball at everybody.
No traveling.
No traveling, exactly.
I think I'm going to be using a sword, although I hope I can find a magic sword.
So, about the, you say traveling, which, kind of allude, when you think of the basketball traveling rules, well, you can take a step before you can take one step, or you can take a couple steps before you jump up and slam dunk, or something like that. Well, it's really hard to throw something without lifting your foot. So, yeah, if you're lifting your foot, right, to throw, I'm okay with that, as long as you don't balk. Meaning, if you lift your foot and you don't throw it, then it's going to fizzle. So just like baseball, right? Once you lift your foot, you have committed to throwing that ball. So that's kind of, but and all of this is kind of regulated. Just be honest.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too. So those were the spells from last year. Those are the first level spells. The second circle of spells is what I'm really excited about. During an interview with Mythavir, who is going to be a new attendee for Hearth of Britannia events this year, he was talking about ways to try to cast area of effect spells. And he was just brainstorming stuff, throwing stuff out left and right. And he said, what do you think about Silly String? And I thought, cool. My God, that's brilliant. So I decided to take that idea, and I don't know if other LARP groups use this idea. Honestly, it's such a good idea. I would be hard pressed to think that other people have not thought of this. Like, someone has to have thought of this. There's no way this is original. Like, and I can't believe that this would be an original idea. So if other LARP groups do this, then cool. I'm not trying to bite their style or anything. I just, Mythobeer suggested it and I ran with it. But the 4, well, technically there's 5, but we'll get to that in a second. But the 4 main second circle spells at Hobloth will be wind-based spells. And the reagent for wind spells is various colored silly string. Okay. Which is really fun because you can affect multiple people with it. And it's not, if you miss, you have a chance to not miss. So there's Flame Wind, Healing Wind, Poison Wind, and Freeze Wind. And depending on the color of your silly string, that will determine which wind you're casting, of course, is in addition to the incantation. So the second circle spells, because they're more powerful than the first circle of spells, these spells do require that you hold the spell book in your offhand and your reagent in your dominant hand. Whereas the first circle of spells, you could hold a sword and in one hand or shield in one hand. This one requires you to hold the spell book. So if you're going to be getting additional offensive power, you're going to be a little more vulnerable. And so to cast a second circle wind spell, again, you have to plant your feet and you have to say the incantation. And like Jack said, it's 1 second per syllable. So you've got a 3-second cast. But the interesting thing, because you're using silly string, I don't want people to like machine gun it, right? I don't want them to go spray, 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 right? And I also don't want someone to just discharge an entire can.
I was going to ask that question.
Yeah, so the current thinking, and I don't know if 5 seconds is going to be, it might end up changing to 3 seconds or 4 seconds, but you say the incantation, and then you start the spray, and once you depress the nozzle, the cast must last for 5 seconds. If you release early, then the spell fizzles, and anybody hit by it takes no effect from the spell. And if you hold it for more than 5 seconds, the spell blows up and you die. So there's real incentive to not go over, and if you release it early, then it just there's no effect. If you move, it fizzles. If you are hit by an opponent, it fizzles, while you cast it or while it's spraying. So an interesting thing is, which means, according to these rules, if someone is casting Flame Wind at you, and you manage to strike them before the end of the cast, technically that would fizzle the spell and you wouldn't take damage. I'm considering tweaking that a little bit because I find that to be a little unrealistic, but I'm not exactly sure how to tweak that just yet. I may just make it to where every time it fizzles, the player takes damage. A proposed idea is hold it too long, you die. If you don't hold it long enough, then it does like a point of damage, like you would lose your arm or something. That might be the way that I change that. But, this is all being, tested and designed as we go here. So Flame Wind is really cool. If you cast Flame Wind and someone gets hit with it, then they're on fire and they can, catch other people on fire, and they only have 10 seconds to live when they're on fire, unless they stop, drop, and roll.
That is cool. By far pretty funny. The stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah.
If you're on fire, stop, drop, and roll.
So all you got to do is like roll once on the ground, and you're fine. But what's also cool is if you are on fire and someone hits you with freeze wind, then you're not on fire anymore. And conversely, if you are frozen from freeze wind and someone hits you with a fireball or flame wind, you take no damage from that fire, and you can magically be unfrozen. Freeze wind is interesting. Freeze wind is where if you get hit with the freeze wind, then simply you're frozen. Your feet are frozen to the ground, and you can't move for 15 seconds. You can still move from the waist up. So just like you're casting a spell, only your feet are locked. So if you get hit with freeze wind, your feet are planted for 15 seconds, and you just immediately yell, "Hey, I've been frozen," and you just start counting. And
Okay,
you can
so
move.
that was going to be my next question was, who's keeping time on all this stuff?
Yeah, it's up to the person
Self-policing.
affected by the spell. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And it's self-policing, and if you cast a spell on someone and you see that they're not, being honest, call them out. And if they don't start being honest, then we pull them aside and we say, "Hey, we can only have a game if you play by the rules.
You gotta play
can't ever-
nice and play fair with all the other kids in the crown. That's right.
Yeah.
And
And
I
last
don't
year
believe we're
we
going to
had
have a
no
problem
trouble
with
with
that
this.
there. Taking a look at the list of people that I've seen and some of the people I already know, I think it's just going to be awful fun across the board.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see how this is going to play out. With the winds specifically.
Yeah,
the poison
because
wind,
the wind is
healing
actually
wind.
going to affect some of that if we have some windy days out there with silly string, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So these are the things that I am predicting or imagining or hoping for. I'm hoping for things like a wall of spellcasters all casting flame wind at the same time as the enemies advance. Now that I think about it, I really do need to change it to where the spell doesn't fizzle, because otherwise people will just rush headlong into a flame wind and not take damage, and I don't really think that's cool. I really want a whole vanguard of people spraying fire, and keeping everybody at bay.
If there's that wall in front of them, there will be friendly fire damage.
Yeah, and that's something else to watch out for, is that if you get this, if the reagent ends up hitting you as the caster, you take damage. If it hits it's not just your enemies. And as Laz was saying, taking wind into account, if the wind is blowing the right way and you are standing on top of some battlements, you can cast flame wind and potentially hit someone really far away.
You can get 30, 40 feet. You get the right wind with silly string like that from a vantage point. Of course, that could backfire. You could be spraying it and it can change direction and come right back at you.
Absolutely. So this is something I'm super, super excited to see how that's going to play out. Because
Casey's got a good point down here. Is lasers? Laser
Tasers.
Tasers. I thought you said lasers.
Tasers.
No,
Tasers.
I'm thinking
For stun
laser
spells.
pointers. When somebody's got a laser on them, they got a little dot on their body. It's like, you're stunned. The tasers, that's a little.
Well, a laser is going to be a little bit too easy to actually do things with. You might want to do a magic missile and toss that in there as well, besides the fireball, and use one of the arrows, and the player tosses the arrow at the person.
Water balloon.
That's a water balloon.
Water balloon. Water balloon.
Yeah.
Magic
Water
missile,
balloons
balloon.
too.
So so Jack, I like that idea, but in Hobloth combat we already have throwing weapons, so we have little throwing axes and throwing knives and stuff like that. And if they hit an opponent, they do 1 point of damage, just like being hit with a sword. So if you get hit in the arm, you lose an arm. If you get hit in the chest, you would die. How would a magic missile differ from a throwing weapon? Because right now, what differentiates fire from a throwing weapon is that a fireball does 1 point of damage on contact, just like a thrown weapon, but also you're on fire, so you have 10 seconds to live when you get struck by a fireball.
That's right.
A magic missile would need to somehow be better than just a throwing weapon. It would need to either do 2 points of damage. So let's say if it hits you in the arm, you're dead.
Yeah.
Or it can hit, or it can do damage through armor or something like that. So
Okay,
we would need to make.
let's call it Ice Arrow and use the water balloon idea, and then it freezes. If it hits you, it freezes you, does 1 point of damage, and it freezes you for
15
5 seconds.
or whatever. Yeah. I like
you
water
guys are getting
balloons.
vicious.
Water balloons, don't count them out. It's gonna be hot
So-
out there, people. It's gonna be hot.
I am, man. So I'm kind of torn on the water balloons because yes, it's gonna be hot. Well, at least it should be. But the water balloons. My problem with that is,
Messy.
You know, yeah.
they are messy. Some people might not want to. They might be wearing, stuff that really shouldn't get that wet. Obviously, we're sweating, but maybe some things shouldn't get that wet.
This is coming from a guy who's planning to wear a body camera. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not completely, something about the idea of water balloons kind of worries me. Now, a separate battle with water balloon reagents, I'm all for. The post capture the keg water balloon battle, that sounds great.
There you go. There you go. Or after the keg's been captured.
But yeah, I like the idea of having little mini arrows. So like I'm thinking little, so not full-sized arrows, but maybe, LARP-safe crossbow bolts that are hand-thrown. That could be a really cool thing for a magic missile. What other LARP groups use is the exact same balls that we use for fireballs, except they're blue or a different color to differentiate that. But I also like the idea of having a freeze spell. There's no reason why, if we're having flame wind, and there's no reason why we can't add an ice ball.
There is an ice wind in there as well. So
if we're having flame wind and freeze wind, and we already have a fireball, there's no reason why we can't add an ice ball as a level 1 spell. Because of course the only advantage to the wind versus the ball is you've got this 5-second spray that you can hit multiple people with, versus if you miss, you miss. So, given that, I think that Ice Ball needs to be added as a first circle spell, definitely. And then Magic Missile as a... Now there's a question. So, Magic Missile, if it can do 2 points of damage, if it can be an instant kill, if it hits someone in the arm, should that be a first or second circle spell?
well, if it's an instant kill, I would make it a second level spell.
Well, it's only an instant kill if it doesn't hit armor. So if it hits, let's say someone's wearing leather armor and it hits them in the chest, it does kill them because it does 2 points of damage. But if someone's wearing a piece of metal armor and it hits them in the chest, their armor is gone, but they are still alive. So it's not always an instant kill.
Interesting stuff.
We need a death bolt.
Now, of course, there are a couple other things going on with that. There are the resurrection spells and other specialty spells. You want to touch on those real quick?
Any vortex llamas?
Say what, Casey?
Any vortex llamas?
Not currently planned for episode 3. But yeah, so actually resurrect and heal were basically, I don't think anybody used them last year.
Right.
That's why I added the second circle of spells, because magic was just so underused last year, and it was faster to just die and resurrect than it was to worry about healing and fumbling with reagents. So I just don't imagine that people are going to be using resurrect or heal very much. Last year, Lord British's special power was the ability to res somebody once per minute. Of course, Richard didn't wait 1 minute between resurrecting. So Richard
surprised me.
Yeah, Richard's special ability. He wave his hand and everyone's healed. But it was supposed to be 1 per minute, but Richard didn't really, honor that cooldown. And on the opposing side, Dark Star had these throwing stars that were instant killers. It doesn't matter where it hit you, it doesn't matter how much armor you have. If it touched you, you died. If you stepped on it, you died. If you picked it up to try to give it back to him, you died. But the problem with that is that Richard was a little too aggressive healing everybody, and Star wasn't quite aggressive enough picking them back up. So, and also he only had 3, which was a budgetary thing. I should have gotten him like 500 of them so he could have just thrown them, willy-nilly.
I can see Star getting a laugh out of sending people to pick him up and watching them all die.
Well, he did also want to win. But yeah, some of that stuff's going to be tweaked in a little bit. Oh, there's a new thing. I have not yet put this on the website, but this. There are 2 very, very, very important, very big changes to Capture the Keg from last year. Last year, there were 2 elements of Capture the Keg that were just, I don't want to say they were game breakers, but they were a little unfair / overpowered. Firstly, anybody who was at Hobloth 2 will remember quite fondly people screaming serpent venom and going nuts. Serpent venom is where you get attacked with a serpent venom dagger, and you have, I think, 10 seconds to live, but during those 10 seconds, you are invulnerable. You basically take, PCP, and you run into battle, and you run amok, and then you die. The problem with this...
type.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Okay.
the problem with this is people were taking the serpent venom daggers, slicing everyone on their team, and their entire team would run forward. So someone would have the serpent venom dagger and just run a line across their whole team. So one very big important change to the serpent venom dagger is it only works once each life. So if you want to reuse the serpent venom power, you have to die and once you respawn and you get all your reagents and all that stuff back, then the power of the serpent dagger will replenish. So hopefully that will prevent gratuitous overuse of serpent venom.
People are going to find a way to bend those rules, you know that.
I look forward to it because it'll just make it more fun for next year.
Oh, it's gonna be fun. That's just
I love the hoe of destruction.
That made so you know how hard it is to find a LARP hoe?
I can
very
imagine.
hard.
Take that out of context. Actually, the closest I was able to find was a shovel. But
okay.
the other really important change to Capture the Keg, which needs to get put up on the site, at the beginning of the event the beginning of the battle last year, Richard and Star, I had them, we flipped a coin, and the winner got to choose whether they wanted the fort or the pirate ship. Richard won the coin toss, and of course he chose the fort, because Richard knows better, because it's his property. The fort was infinitely better as a defensive structure than the pirate ship. You could actually run inside the fort and got this tiny little door, and you could run in there with a flag, and you can't really do that on the ship. And the ship has 2 entrances to the gangplank, and it just wasn't, and the ship has a much smaller inside than the fort does. So it just, once someone got the flag in the fort, it kind of became stuck there. And because people would physically bar the door, just like there'd be a line of people saying you can't get in. So this year, the winner of the coin toss gets to choose which side they start on, and just like a football game, we're going to have a halftime, and we're going to switch sides.
User was moved to your channel.
Ooh, okay. So sort of level the playing field points-wise. give everybody an equal chance to attack and defend each point.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So this way, if both teams get a chance to have the advantage, and the only thing that the winner chooses is which side they get first.
Very nice, very nice.
Rather than the
I'm
winner of the
digging
coin
it.
toss. That is.
I'm looking forward to it. Been working on my gear, getting all my stuff ready for Hobloth myself. I know Jack has. Now, real quick.
I'm contemplating buying a couple of bastard swords.
How many slots are actually still available for Hobloth? Do we have a definitive answer to that right now?
Yeah, let me double check. Actually, someone unfortunately withdrew their registration just a few minutes before you guys went live. I got an email saying that his work schedule changed and he's not going to be able to make it, so that does open up one more spot. So according to the guest list, which is publicly viewable, 54 people have paid, and they're fully confirmed. And then there are 20 people who have been approved, but they haven't paid yet. And then I have one interview coming up Friday. So that would be 74, 75. So let's say that the Friday interview goes through. That means that there are 25 genuinely unspoken for spots left.
Still left, okay. And do we have a deadline to fill those slots?
Yeah, so
I know the information's out there, but while we got you here talking, I figured let you plug it a little bit more there.
Oh, no, that's totally cool. I am here to answer those questions, but to make sure that I don't misspeak, I'm going to actually consult the FAQ myself. I'm one of those people who says, I write stuff down so I don't have to remember it. And while, I should know this stuff off the top of my head, I always like to reference it so I don't stick my foot in my mouth. So let me click through here.
And Maynard says his check is in the mail, Rustic. He's sitting here watching the show with us today at the new location, or the temporary location. Although I am digging this a little bit.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to getting that check in the mail. So registration closes officially May 1st. And related to that, that's also when I will decide who is sleeping where. I can't make a decision on who gets a cabin until I know how many people are coming.
Gotcha.
So on May 1st, that's when I'll make the determination of who gets a cabin and where they're sleeping and all that fun stuff. And so registration closes May 1st. Last year, I had late registration if there were some extra spots available. Late registration last year was twice the price because I was at that point running around like a chicken with my head cut off trying to get the event ready. And if you really, really wanted in, I had to find a time to interview you and talk to you about it. And then I'd already mailed off the physical invitations and made, I had all that fun stuff. So late registration, there may be late registration this year, but I do have people pay for it.
Gotcha.
The incentive to this year, the incentive isn't necessarily in registering early, but there is registration that if you decide there is incentive rather if you decide not to come. The sooner that you decide that you're not coming, the more money you get back. So on the FAQ, if for some reason something happens and you withdraw, if you've withdrawn your registration like immediately, like so let's say you interview, you get confirmed and you pay, and then something comes up, you get all your money back. But just like Shroud of the Avatar, as people send me the money, I spend the money. I buy.
Yeah, absolutely. You're buying things that are going to be supplied for everybody's use, and people got to understand that.
Right. So I these, multi-$1,000 orders of LARP weapons and hundreds of dollars here for journals and hundreds of dollars here for cloth maps and deposits for catering and all that. So as the event gets closer, then you get less and less of a refund if you end up not wanting to come to the event. And I think, that's pretty reasonable.
Absolutely.
And all that stuff is on the FAQ for people that are worried about that.
Because all the money that comes in for the event goes to the event.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And there is an option to give the host a tip if you're feeling generous, and that of course does go to the host. But so extra money is used for things like, so in the case where there's funding goals, stretch goals listed on the main page, and in the event where a funding goal isn't met, but there's still that extra money in between, or a funding goal is met too late to actually fulfill that funding goal, then that extra money is used for things like paying performers, helping. Let's say last year, for example, Dr. Cat was one of the special guests, and he was in San Francisco, and he said, well, I don't know if I'll be able to make it. And I said, well, what if I pay for your plane ticket? And he said, I can make it. So the ability to just help special guests that we all want to meet, like Dr. Cat, helping them get there, that's what that extra money is used for. Helping, and sometimes that money goes to offer free or reduced admission to certain people who have a lot to offer. There's some people that can run excellent quests. There's some people who just are absolutely the life of the party, but they may have financial trouble, right? And as the host, if someone really needs financial assistance, I make that decision on a case-by-case basis.
With that being said, you haven't mentioned your special guests that you recently announced.
Oh yeah, so much stuff happened yesterday. One of the other wonderful things that I got to announce was that Warren Spector has confirmed that he will be attending the event, which I'm super excited for. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity to say that Warren Spector will not be participating like the other special guests. Last year, the special guests came and they participated, in garb, in character, role-playing right along with us. They were, they went through the Moon Gate to get to Britannia just like we did, and they were playing the characters that we knew them as in the Ultimate games. While Warren does have in-game counterparts, he will not be playing those in-game counterparts. Warren will be coming as Warren, dressed as Warren, and answering questions as Warren. So he is not coming with any material prepared. He doesn't have notes for any talk or anything. It is absolutely, completely, 100% up to us to ask him whatever we want to know, and he will talk at length and tell us any stories inspired by our questions. So he's coming here for us, but it's up to us what we get out of that.
Sit down and BS and just hang out session, basically.
Exactly.
No formats, informal setting where you're going to be able to come and just spend a little time chit-chat and ask some of those intriguing questions that just may never get answered in a forum or a letter.
Exactly.
It's the way I got to look at it. You're going to get a chance to sit down and ask some pressing questions, and he'll have an option to say, sorry, we're not going to talk about that, or absolutely, let me tell you a story and we'll be here an hour,
Right, wonderful. Yeah. It's the fun thing was when I met Richard for the first time, I turned to him and we were getting the smoker set up for making delicious ribs, and this was in New York City, and we kind of had a quiet moment, and I said, Richard, now that I got you by yourself for a second, there's something I've always wanted to ask you. And he goes, okay. And I said, do you do your own laundry?
Good question.
He's like, that's the new one.
Absolutely.
And he said sometimes, and I said, I really like to give people those big build-ups and then ask a silly question. But it's the point of that is this is an opportunity to ask the silly questions, right? And that's really what Yeah, that's what Hobloth is about. We're going to play games together. We're going to interact in a no-pressure environment. You know, you can ask Warren, hey, do you have a dog? Do you have a cat? You know, tell me.
When I met Richard, I asked the question that was on my mind, which was, what's it like having a rocket strapped to your ass and being launched into space, literally? I asked him. I had to ask that one question, man. What's it like, literally having, and
I asked if farts could propel you. Go ahead.
And Casey was right there during that. I believe Jack was nearby as well. And he went into this whole, little chat about, of course, what it felt like being, inside the capsules as, you're being launched and all that. And I got a great answer, and a great story from it. But you got to ask that question. I mean, who walks up to an astronaut and says, what's it like to have a rocket strapped to your ass and launched to space? So I had to ask the question. I dig it.
Thinking lots of people.
Yeah. See, and here I thought you were going to say that you asked the question that was on your mind, which was, where's the bathroom?
Yeah. Well, we got into how you can go to the bathroom in space and other things that happen in space while you're in space. It was an interesting conversation, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely. And Richard's certainly got great stories. I've had the privilege of hearing a few of those.
Oh, I'm sure. But
so yeah, anybody planning to come to Hobloth, if you get some downtime, Richard likes to hang out around the fire pit and tell stories, and absolutely he loves to talk about space. It's after spending a whole day role playing in Britannia or New Britannia, some space questions are always refreshing to our ranged British.
I was going to say thank you, but y'all were talking when she followed me.
Well, mine, when I let the dogs out, we let the puppies out as well, and the boobs.
The boobs?
Yeah, when you follow my
anybody
stream, if you're lucky, you get some bouncing boobs for an incentive to follow me on NBNN.
Whereas mine is me sitting in the toilet doing the cheer emote.
Yeah, it's him sitting in the loo. Yeah, when we first got emotes and sitting.
Yeah, I ran in. I actually had the one that was done. I forgot which dev initially posted it, but I used that one for a little bit until it was actually in game, and then I changed my follow emote to me sitting on the toilet,
doing the cheer emote. That's right.
Doing the cheer emote, yeah.
But speaking of the devs, who was that who did that? Wasn't that?
I don't know if it was I can't remember who did it.
God, I'm at a loss. I know who did it. I just can't think of the name right now. But anyway, moving right.
I think y'all said one and only.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's who it was. I thought it was the one and only sitting on the pod who did that. But,
did I just remember something you guys didn't?
Yeah, I don't know if it was one and only because he doesn't do the graphic stuff.
Yeah, but it might have been him who was doing the animation, no?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Meanwhile...
That or Burning Toad, one of the two.
Burning Toad, maybe that's who it was. It had to be one or the other. I think it was Burning Toad who actually had it out there. We can look that up. But anyway, yes, bouncing boobs are an incentive around here.
There are a few buildings that still are lacking sponsorship.
Are there? I thought all the sponsorships for Hobloth were eaten up already.
Yeah, there are a few left. Sorry, I had stepped away for a second. The cat was making some strange sounds. There are 4 buildings left for sponsorship, actually. I'm not sure what they are off the top of my head. I think the geodesic dome is one of them.
Yeah. Then you also have the dungeon.
I am really surprised at the dungeon. I can't believe that. The dungeon, everybody before people even could register, people were emailing me saying, I need the dungeon for a quest I'm designing. Dungeon. Oh my god, dungeon. And I thought someone was gonna just instantly want to sponsor the dungeon. I am really surprised that it hasn't gone yet.
And the Lunar Rift Shrine has not gone yet either.
That's another surprising one.
Interesting.
But these are just ways for people to kind of have something, a fun way to donate and sort of get something for it. The building sponsorship was a great idea given to me by Unseen Dragon, and the whole idea behind the sponsorship is, again, it's something to put your donation dollars toward. The donations, of course, go directly to the funding goals of the event. But when you sponsor a building, I will write whatever sponsorship message you want in calligraphy and make a sign that goes on the building, or in the building, or near the building, or whatever it is, depending on the building. And then, of course, you get to take that sign home at the end of the event. It's just a way to try to have a little bit of fun with the extra fundraising.
Very nice.
Some people thought that if you sponsored a building, then that meant that you got to sleep in it, but that's not the case. It's simply like buying, getting to put some advertising on the building.
Your name here.
Right.
Yes.
Kind of gives people a little ownership of the event.
Yes.
Yeah, sleeping under that geodesic dome would be very, very beneficial, especially if it rains.
Yeah, we
I
sponsored
think
a building out there.
Yeah, which one did you guys get?
I'm trying to find it on the site here. I think it was
You guys got the Provisioners cabin.
the Provisioner. Yeah, I was going to say, it was one of the stores, some place where people would commonly come, I figured, where Jack and I can hang out in front of the storefront. Do our
Not
show.
And whoever mans the store is going to be named Dante.
Nice.
Yes.
So not that my website gets a lot of traffic worth speaking of, but you guys actually, when you sponsored, you guys have a link to NBNN as your sponsor message, which is kind of cool. So when people sponsor one of the buildings, they can advertise stuff. Another sponsor has a link to one of their online stores, which is pretty cool.
Yes, very cool.
Can't guarantee they're going to get any business from it, but I'm absolutely happy to help to drive any traffic I can to anyone who supports the Hearth of Britannia, except white supremacists.
Do you disavow?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you disavow
I had to throw that
the
in
support
there,
of
so-
David Duke?
Absolutely.
I disavow. Okay, you all happy? Anyway.
Hey, I've got over $50,000 in student loans, and if they wanted to pay off my student loans, I would tell them to eat a bag of dicks.
As is your prerogative.
But we're all cool with Eskimo supremacists, correct?
Although, in that case, maybe I would say, please, thank you for paying off my student loans. Take the money and then donate it to NAACP or something.
Ooh. All right. That's Pandora's box we're starting to open there. Let's just close that lid very gently and step away.
Don't take anything away from Hobla that isn't a trinket.
That's right. But meanwhile, we are fast running out of time here. We've spent most of this hour talking about Hobloth, which we are very happy to do, especially since we will be attending and participating in Hobloth. So all the information that we can get, as well as share with everybody out there. And this, of course, is going to be running, so people will see it over and over and over out there. So it'll be spreading the word out there for the next week or so, which is going to be cool. We're gearing up. We're bringing capes and kilts and sashes and satchels and pouches and all sorts of other trinkets.
And NBNN is coming.
I have actually
Excellent.
found a way to mount a cell phone as a body cam, so that I can literally get a first-person sense of things I'm doing. Got a lot of great stuff lined up. Jack and I planning on doing the show at Hobloth for the week.
Depends on the internet connection out there.
Well, we can do it just for the folks there, record it, and then put it out when we get back. That's not a problem.
Because according to Richard, his internet connection at the cabin is an ISDN line. So
I know that.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go ahead and knock out today's calendar. Stand-up corner, all that stuff's going to have to wait. Where there is no time for that. We have, of course, Postmortem coming tomorrow afternoon after our show, an hour later, and we will simulcast that live. Friday, we have a star-long interview also after our show. A lot of great stuff coming up here on NBNN, so come join us for all this. Meanwhile, Jack, you want to go ahead and do the calendar? We'll say thank you to all our sponsors and all the good folks and roll on out of here for today.
So remember, our calendar is actually brought to us by Avatar Circle. It is a community calendar, so if your guild or community event wants to connect to the calendar, just contact Kaizen Phoenix Fire, who is responsible for maintaining Avatar Circle right now. The calendar is also hosted on nbnn.info. Today is Wednesday, March 2nd. Remember, all times are New Britannia time, which is Central Standard Time in the real world. Later today on Avatars Radio, we do have DJ Golden Wing with his Community Appreciation Wednesday between 4 and 6. After that is DJ Squirrel, who's going to have lots of squirrels. At 7 o'clock, is the EVLs. Every Virtue is Lasting is their league PvP tournament. Don't forget, based off of your PvP experience, you're put in different brackets, and each one has its own bracket, so you can level up that way and then go from one group to another.
Jade will be joining us tomorrow on Thursdays, telling us who the winners are every week, as well as letting us know what the prizes for next week are. Each week there are unique prizes out there. This week I believe it's 100 scrolls of your choice. Teleport, recall, or a combination thereof is for the winners tonight, in both categories, I was told. So look forward to that tomorrow.
Cool. And then if you're not into PvP, in Kaer Drakwich, Bowen Bloodgood is having Wednesday nights where you can go roleplay being very knightly. And then also another role-playing event is going to be Striker Sparhawk's Happy Hour, or as Laz likes to call it,
Spend Sparhawk's gold.
Now that'll take place at some random place within Paxlayer. Just you'll have to find Striker Sparhawk or message him to find out exactly where it's going to be at, since he can't zone to anybody anymore. That is the community calendar for Wednesday, March 2nd. I don't know why I'm thinking November.
Ooh, yeah. Time warp.
Yeah, time warp. But thank you to all of our sponsors. That's going to be sodataming.com, sodacraft.com, Shroud Marketplace. Let's see. And if you noticed on Shroud Marketplace, I think there was something happened on Shroud Marketplace.
Yes, that was another thing. A couple of those cabinets are still out there. Of course, don't forget sodamap.com, and of course our friend Ben over at Relics by Rild for all your officially licensed Shrouded Out of Avatar swag. Go out to relicsbyrild.com, use the promo code NBNN, get 10% off your orders on all the official swag from Relics by Rild out there. But, what about those changes out there? What's any movement on those items out there?
Well, I do know that on that Hearth of Britannia, there was a price drop on it, and then there's also the suggest a price feature. So if you want to suggest a price, that is also an option as well.
Cool.
And you can buy one.
Of course, further plugging for my event, you guys can come see the actual cabinet that was used to make that at the Hobloth.
There we go. What a tie-in there. I love this shit. I'm telling you. Alrighty, folks, that's gonna wrap it up for us today. I'm
User
Laz.
was moved to your channel.
Jack.
In this case, cupcakes.
And
Screwed
Rustic
it.
Dragon here. Thank you for having me. Oh, sorry, Screwed. I didn't mean to overtalk you.
And thanks for joining us today, Rustic. We'll have you back again, I'm sure, a couple times as we get more updates. We're going to go ahead and get out of here for today. Join us tomorrow, NBNN, for more news, sports, entertainment, crazy, wild happenings. And, of course, coming to you, the post-mortem afterwards. We're going to bring that to you live as that happens here in NBNN as well. We'll see you all tomorrow, folks. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. I love this show.
Baby. I love Hobloth.
We love Hobloth.
I love your sword release. Don't release too early.
I am so going to penetrate you with my sword.
User joined your channel.
Bands.
Just clean up the spray.